There used to be a time where you could walk into a Mercedes-Benz dealership and buy a brand new, stylish, compact, pillarless, V8, naturally aspirated coupe. I miss those times. This is a Mercedes C209 CLK500. It's a two-door, compact, pillarless coupe with a 5-litre V8 packed underneath that bonnet. It's luxurious, elegant, and really, really fast. It's coming to auction on shootingbrake.com, and we're here to tell you what it's like to drive. So, got Mercedes-Benz CLK500 here. Going to do the usual, talk you through what makes this car so great, why it's worth buying, etc, etc. Before I do that, I'm going to show you its single best feature, which is this. Oh my god, this thing pulls so nicely. Right, so what you're hearing there is a 5-litre M113 Mercedes-Benz V8, so naturally aspirated, single overhead cam, 3-valve engine, which sounds old school, but this is an iconic engine from Mercedes-Benz. It's incredibly reliable, it delivers great power, 300 brake in this model. And on top of that, the way it delivers that power is absolutely brilliant. It's calibrated so nicely for a road car and for an automatic gearbox. So most of the power is between 2 and 5k. And if you just want to make progress, you know, get the car going, get up to speed, you never have to bring it over 2 grand. As a result, we actually get really decent MPG in this. The fuel consumption is about on par with a 3-litre BMW M54 and a 330 Ci, but you got way more power and don't tell anyone, that's actually more reliable. Right, we skipped ahead there to the engine because it's just such a highlight in this car, but the rest of it is brilliant too. Now, before I get into the rest of it, I'm just gonna remind you of the fact that the CLK, when it was launched, was a spec for spec about 5 to 10 grand more expensive than BMW's 3 Series Coupe. This was seen as a very high-end product, and that does reflect even now in 2023. So, first off, a few nice little details. We've got fully pillarless windows, which is just brilliant, makes the car feel so special and airy, especially in the summer. And generally there's just this feel of kind of heft and quality that you used to get in stuff like the C124 and that generation Mercedes. Now, if you read kind of forums, that kind of thing, you might hear that, oh, like this is a generation where that went. Don't believe it. Honestly, it's not true. Like, this feels so great inside. It doesn't really feel aged or dated. The quality is great. All the materials feel great. The build quality feels great. And it's Mercedes of the old school in the sense that it's not trying to appeal to like modern sporting pretensions. It is actually quite a sporty car, surprisingly. We'll get to that in a bit. But this is classic, elegant, comfortable GT Mercedes at its best. So first impressions when you get into this car's driving position, it's that kind of slightly imperious driving position that you get in Mercedes, where you're not sitting super low, but you don't feel like you're sitting on the car, but you are looking down the bonnet, down the steering wheel, and you've got this great commanding position of the road, which is really nice. It suits this car. It wouldn't suit BMW, but it does suit this. Next thing, you've got steering wheel and steering itself. So the steering wheel is this fairly big 4-spoke item. Again, it suits the use case of the car. The steering itself is a really nice sharp steering rack. It's hydraulically assisted. This is the first CLK to get a steering rack, and it's very, very accurate. It's not dripping in feel, but you do get some feedback. It weights up quite nicely on turn-in, and the steering effort builds really consistently as you load the wheel up, which gives you a huge amount of confidence in that front end. Very, very intuitive rack, and it actually gives you a lot more confidence than you'd think in pushing this down country lane. And the chassis helps with that. So first off, we've got really, really good turn-in here, like shockingly good turn-in. This is actually a really enjoyable car to kind of take by the scruff, and that's not what you'd be buying it for, but if you're in a rush, basically, this will take care of you quite nicely, especially with that engine. It's also very reassuring, you know, if you're on a long distance GT run and you just come off the motorway, you're going around a slip road, you don't need to slam on the brakes to make it round, you just kind of flick it through. And it's really nice. You get the feeling you get in this and just trump up, you know, 500, 700, 1,000 miles, no problem. Now, this is the Elegance chassis. So Mercedes offer 3 chassis trims. There's the Elegance, Avant-Garde and AMG. The Elegance is a more comfort-oriented spec, but it's seen here with the AMG pack, which is the 18-inch 5-spoke wheels, which are stunning, and the 3-intake bumper and diffuser rear bumper and the kind of twist side skirts. So you get sporty looks, but super comfortable ride. And in my opinion, the Elegance suspension actually makes this a far more capable car for British roads because it is a bit more compliant. Now, when you do get to the corner, you get to lean on these incredible brakes. They are massive, massive 4-pot monoblock caliper, cross-drilled and vented discs, and 2-pot brakes on the back. And what they're paired with is a really nice automatic gearbox. So this is the Mercedes 5G-tronic 722 gearbox. As a 2023 buyer, you'll be reassured to know that these gearboxes do not have major automatic gearbox issues. They don't have a reputation for slipping torque converters or anything like that. Very, very stout gearbox, very durable. Perhaps not the smoothest compared to other gearboxes, but it's smooth enough. And on top of that, with the V8, you actually don't end up having to change gears that often. It just kind of lets you lope along in 3rd and 4th, which is great.
Now this is a brilliant segue to talk about one of the CLK500's greatest strengths as a used car purchase in 2023, reliability. The M113 V8 is simple and over-engineered, found in a fairly low state of tune in the 500. Same goes for the box, and this is the only 500 Mercedes you can buy on conventional strut and spring suspension, so no airbags, compressors or hydraulic lines to worry about. Unlike the E-Class, it also has a conventional mechanical braking system. By 2003, Mercedes had sorted their rust and build quality issues, so the bodywork presents beautifully and the CLK's compactness means it isn't too hard on its suspension components. In terms of running costs, this car really is a Goldilocks purchase, being able to compete with cars of far lesser performance in terms of overall running costs. Anyway, back to the fun stuff.
See, it's corners like that on A roads, just fast sweepers where you just kind of lean on it a little bit, just tickle the foot a little bit. That's where this car is just so good. Right, I'm going to show you what this car's like to drive around town and doing all the daily duties that you'll notice be using it for. But before that, I just want to prove to you that if you're looking for an exciting car, this does fit the bill. First off, loads of mid-range pull. The way it delivers that power is just so good. Nice strong brakes, sharp turning. It kind of floats in. You see the kind of grip building down the side of it, where it's got quite a soft suspension. It's very readable in that way. Gives you a lot of reassurance on a slightly damp lane like this. Oh, that noise! There you go. Honestly, this has a kind of like brutish muscle car feel to it that's so addictive. It's so engaging. Even though it's auto, it's just so engaging to use. It's a muscle car. That's exactly what this is. It's a muscle car with the kind of outward refinement of, you know, something German and luxury, but at heart, this is a muscle car with an almost sports car chassis. And for the road, that is such a compelling proposition. Honestly, this is probably quite a bad thing for me to be driving this, because this has honestly changed my view of Mercedes and autos and CLKs entirely. I want it. I really want to buy this car. I'm just going to sorry, I just can't help it. That is just such a great noise. It's such a great package. And the fact that you can have this with pillarless windows. I just love pillarless windows. I'm sorry, that is just so special. Look at this. That is brilliant. And this is such great value for money. These go for about the same price as a well-sorted 330 Ci Sport. And that's crazy. I mean, this has 70 more horsepower, loads more torque, it's more reliable, it's the same in terms of fuel consumption, because 330 tend to get around 17 to 18 on mixed use, which is bang on what this gets, presumably because you use the throttle a lot less, and this suits an auto a lot more. On top of that, again, it's pillarless. It's honestly, I get why you'd buy a 330. It is a tiny bit sharper and just a little bit more enjoyable to feed through the corners. And obviously, there's a different look to both these cars. This is more elegant. 330 is more sporting. But if you're considering a 330, you absolutely have to consider one of these. You just have to, or at least test drive one and hear one. Now this one comes with a very, very un-Mercedes fob for the exhaust, which means that you can make it louder or quieter at your will. So this is the loud setting, and it's, I'm just going to do sport mode, and then but then if you want to roll through a lovely town like this, you hit this B button, and it's quiet again. You can barely hear it. I mean, as far as day-to-day usability goes, that is just unbeatable. That is absolutely unbeatable. What a genuine great car. And I think it looks great as well, especially with all the windows down. That rear haunch where the C-pillar meets the kind of upward stroke and feeds into the rear light, and then you get that CLK500 badge. That is just iconic. There's something about a 500 badge on a Mercedes that's just so, so compelling. And on top of that, you've got 300 brake, 5,000 cc, and a single exhaust tip. I just love that. I love a Q car, and that is about as Q car as it gets. Right, we talked about fun stuff. You know, the fact that this car is actually like really good down the country lane, handles really nicely, it's got poise, it's got a chassis balance, it's delicate and engaging, and you know, it feels like a muscle car, but it's also brilliant, genuinely brilliant around town. And there's a couple reasons why, aside from the fact that it's just a really nice, airy, compact car. So first off, pillarless windows, has to be done. Now, visibility is great. A-pillars are quite skinny, car's really easy to place. These A-pillars do that really nice thing of kind of informing you where the front wheels are. They kind of glide down to kind of where the turrets are, and it makes the car really easy to place and park. On top of that, this is a Mercedes, which means it's got amazing steering lock. Really easy to do a 3-point turn in this. So you're busy enjoying that V8 noise, you blitz past your street, you need to do a 3-point turn. Check out this steering lock. I mean, look at that. It's like a drift car. And then you've got parking sensors. If it's not enough, just flick it into reverse. And the great thing about this gearbox is that it's got the traditional kind of jagged gate. So you don't need to look at it to get it into reverse. You just kind of flick it around, and it's really, really nice and easy. It's very intuitive shifter to use. That might sound like a small thing, but when 80 or 90% of your driving is around town, you interact with that so much. And having that, you can tell that Mercedes put so much time and effort to making sure that that was the most intuitive flick through automatic gearbox ever. On top of that, you're driving through town, doing 20 miles an hour, you coast along. Listen to that. Listen to that. I've never driven a car that so joyously cruises at 20 miles an hour. We live in an age where 20 mile an hour zones are taking over cities. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy driving anymore. You just need to buy a V8 with a switchable exhaust like this. Oh, just listen to that. Every time you pull away from a green light, you get to listen to that every single day. What a privilege. What an absolute privilege. Fancy adding some opulence to your daily commute, or you need something special to schlep over to Europe in, this CLK500 will do just fine, and is coming straight to your fingertips on shootingbrake.com.
Shootingbrake.com is your home for classic and enthusiast cars. This CLK500 is a fairly exclusive proposition with only 600 pieces supplied to the UK, and it's a great example of what we're all about here at Shooting Brake. It's an underappreciated gem that offers true value and interest to keen drivers and enthusiasts. If that sounds like you, make sure you don't miss out on this one, and stay tuned for further listings and videos on cars that you love.